Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be setting up loot. So here we are back in our scene and we're going to keep it simple. So I've actually tried multiple approaches. So ideally we'd have a trigger on the armor that would dictate if we're male, female, then it's going to be male or female activated. Unfortunately the way skin mesh works is that you can't do that. You just can't do it. I've also tried the approach of doing conditions on the loot. The problem is that you'll then need a lot of prefabs. Basically, you're just creating a lot of prefabs, which makes inventory management quite difficult. So as crazy as it seems, it's actually ideal to it's better to just have a inventory male version and inventory female version. I know it's not what you want to hear. I know you want an easier solution, but as far as I'm aware, without some custom coding, it can be done. And even with coding, I'm not sure how it can be done because you'd need to create a different way to do skin mesh altogether. So yeah, I'm not really sure how to approach any of that. So we're definitely going to take that approach. So let's head over to our fantasy heroes, prefabs. Not static. We're going to take a preset. So let's see what is. Oh wow, that's wild. That's crazy. I think we already did that one. Let's do something not too difficult. Yeah, that's cool. Okay. Nice. I say that's cool. It almost looks a bit like a hippie in comparison. Anyway, so we've got this one. So let's unpack this one. And then what we're going to do is quite simple. So for both actually, I mean it doesn't really matter because with the whole skin mesh approach, everything that isn't used disappears anyway, so don't really need to worry about duplicates. I am just going to get rid of this just so it's gone. There we go. In the all gender part, we're not doing any heads covers, so we can just get rid of that as well. There we go. Chests is, well, it's empty, so that's all fine as well. So yeah, with the whole skin mesh approach, it basically will only add the skin meshes that are visible. So even if there's more on here, you don't really have to worry about that because none of that is actually going to be in your scene anyway. So yeah, that's all fine. So what we need to do is actually quite simple. We need to see, okay, torso, male and female, so we're going to enable the same ones, and that's basically what we're going to be doing. Is we're going to be 10 for the upper arm and lower is 0. Okay, so that was torso, so upper arm is 10, and that's basically what we're doing. The same armor for both male female. And they don't look the same because the meshes are just different. Obviously male female body shapes are just not the same. So yeah, it's a slightly different approach. For the hand we've got 10 as well. That's easy. We've got 10. And by the way, I'm taking this preset. You can take whatever you want. You can create whatever armor you want, mix and match. The whole idea is to have the same for the male and female choices. When it comes to hips, 28. There we go. And then for the legs, we've got 14. Awesome. So for the legs, we've got 14 and 14. Cool. And yeah, that's it. So now I'm just simply going to duplicate to see if it's actually if it really truly is the same. It should be. Okay, so let's head over here, duplicate, and then on the first one we're going to turn off the female, and on the second one we're going to turn off the male. Wait, did I do that right? Yeah, I did it right. They're just that that similar. I mean, you can see the shape is not literally the same. Different shapes. If you put them on top of each other, you actually notice that as well. So you know, there's definitely some differences. Some differences here. They're not wild. I'm not going to pretend they are. But yeah, they're not the same. And with some armor, it's just more visible than with others. Because keep in mind, we have a big trench coat here, so it makes sense that it's a bit less visible on this one. Cool. Anyway, so I'm going to call this Hunter, and we'll do upper. Let's add a little M, right? Yeah, male. Cool. And then this one is the female one. Sweet. This is going to be lower, and this is going to be lower as well. Awesome. So let's disable everything else, and then on the male ones, and again, you really don't have to worry too much about deleting the rest. So this is the upper part, so basically everything from hips down is going to be gone. Make sure the attachments are gone as well. There we go. And that's the upper male. Going to drop that here in our prefabs. Perfect. Yeah, we can get rid of this one then. This is the female one, so yeah, we'll just do the opposite. Cool. Same thing here. And get rid of the knee attachments. There we go. And it's nice. At least one advantage of this skin mesh approach. You don't have to worry too much about cleaning it up. Although I still would have preferred if we could have kept our triggers, but you know. It is what it is. I'm pretty sure I've complained about it several times already. Then for the male parts, it's lower, so obviously it's the opposite. And then yeah, just get rid of this. Cool. And then female lower. Awesome. Cool. So yeah, we've got our prefabs. I'm pretty sure actually the lower ones are in a different folder, though I'm still not really sure why I even did that. Cool. When it comes to the inventory items, we already created these. If you didn't follow that video, I'd recommend you to do it. But otherwise, in case, it's pretty much the same setup, of course, as this setup in the inventory example, so you can have a look there. So just going to create this one. Scott's upper, so called it Hunter upper, and then yeah, male. And again, really, unless you have better suggestions, you know, put them in the description. I've tried it with doing one inventory item, but then you end up just creating so many prefabs for conditions, things like that, that it actually just ends up being more work, not less work. Now the important part, of course, here when it comes to the naming is that you know, I would always name it the same. Yeah, you know, I know I need to change the descriptions and stuff. That's fine. So yeah, ideally, you know, you'd keep the same name for both the male and female. Now, when it comes to what we're going to do here, is we're going to drag in the male. I know we created. What was different about the inventory one again? I know we had a reason for that. I just really can't remember the reason for it. Yeah, I can't really remember why. And that's bad because these are my videos. Anyway, I'll just take the same approach to avoid any issues. There we go. So then this one here. We don't have back attachments on this one, so we can remove those. And on remove, same thing with the back attachments, and make sure you remove the same items yet again, by the way. That is quite important. Yeah, I'm still not really sure why I did separate items. I honestly don't remember. Anyway, cool. Then and then we create the female one, which is going to be identical, of course. You just need to change the ID, where we just do an F, and everything else should be the same, of course, except for the prefab you attach, obviously. And there we go. Now you can do the same for lower. For now, we'll just keep it to the upper. It's about showing you how it works, not doing everything. Cool. So we've got you know, we've got these two. They're identical except for that they equip different prefabs and a different ID. Cool. And yeah, this really is a shorter approach, simply because, you know, it's just quite easy to do a duplicate. Still wish we could have the whole trigger action approach, but yeah, I couldn't find it. Then what I'm going to do, and the way you visualize loot is completely up to you. I like the whole approach, just like kind of like in Skyrim, where you enter a shop and you can actually see an armor piece. I always think that is really cool. So I'm only going to do it with the male as a base, because they're so similar that when it comes to picking up, I don't really mind. There we go. And let's make sure we unpack this, by the way. And I'm going to call this Hunter Upper Loot. We can get rid of this. So what we're going to do here is we want to make sure that for the approach, we're not going to use skin mesh as just random objects in the world. Skin mesh is just heavier. We want to avoid having to use that when needed. So I'm just going to drag all of these up. There we go. On all of them, I'm going to do a mesh filter and a mesh renderer. There we go. So and everything else, I'm literally, well, not yet. I'm not going to remove it yet. So first off, you know, we need to make sure that it's the same material on everything. Let's actually do that straight away, then we don't have to go back to that. There we go. Cool, so we've got the same material. Then now what we're going to do is we're going to drag in the mesh here. Make sure you drag in the correct mesh, by the way. And then for the torso, same thing. Cool. And then we can get rid of the rest. So the reason we're oh yeah, and of course on these forgot about that, remove the skin mesh. So now we've got simple mesh ones, no collision. You can add collision if you like, but I'm not going to do that. No collision here. And the whole idea of this is that you actually have a visual representation, but it's not as heavy on performance because we're not doing skin mesh. Cool. So Hunter Upper Loot, and then we need to create a empty parent. Actually, let's drag that up first. Yeah, here's fine. Then we drag it in. And we're going to keep the naming conventions the same as in the examples. So pick up Hunter Upper. There we go. And this will have, of course, this will have a trigger. I'm going to explain to you the interact feature a bit as well. So we're going to do a trigger and then interact. So on interact, so basically interact by default is actually set to a specific button input, which is E. However, we don't have to do that, so we can still use something else as the input, which is quite important. So what it's going to do is we're going to call some conditions, check conditions, sorry. Keep forgetting the naming difference, not check, run, unbelievable. Run conditions, there we go. And we're going to add those here. So conditions. And yeah, this is going to be based on the naming convention. So text equals variable, global name variable. Going to drag in hero here, and then choice, male. Oh, male. There we go. Then inventory, bag, add item. So yeah, if it's male, then we're going to add the male one. And let's copy this. And if it's female, we're going to add the female one. There we go. So yeah, not as clean as I would like it to be, because obviously, you know, if we could have had a trigger on the mesh, that would have been great, on the parent of the mesh. But yeah, unfortunately, we just can't. Cool. So yeah, we've got that. So we've got our conditions. Then here we can do a play sound effect, just to have it a bit similar to the examples. Default, and then the important part is the destroy, and then destroy self. Well, we can just do self. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Now the next thing we're going to add is a hotspot. And what does the hotspot do? So the hotspot it's actually quite simple. So the target needs to be the player. It's a radius, and it's the radius in which you know, we can interact. But a bit more than that. So we can do we can basically have the character look at this object, which I think is cool. It's a IK feature, which yeah, I think is pretty awesome. And we want some tooltips as well, and that has been made pretty easy. Here we can just define the text. So hunter upper, and then here we're going to do a in assets, we're going to pick our prefab. Now for the prefab, it's quite important. By default, this is actually E, this one, not F. So I already set it. You can change it to whatever you want, of course. I already set it to F because I would like F to be the button for interaction, not E, which we use for equipping. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You can change the entire prefab. I would duplicate it if you're really going to change it, and then change it around. Would like this to be a bit higher, so I'm going to do 1, because our armor is pretty high, of course. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Then we're going to go to, well, it really depends where you add. We could add a folder for loot. Maybe that's a good idea. Let's do loot. And then just drag it here, and we have our pickup. Cool. And then yeah, if you're going to repeat this, you can just simply duplicate this, change the prefab here for the visuals, and just in conditions change what you're going to add for the item. And that's pretty much it. So it will be quite easy to do this on repeat. Yes, it's a bit time consuming, but not too much. I think this is actually quite doable. Yeah, we can actually keep it in, of course. So now we need a interaction for the player as well. And I'm going to do F, like I already showed you. I'm using F for the horse as well. So I'm actually going to add that interact to the horse too, just so it all makes sense. So we're going to do a trigger here. And then interact. And then here we're not going to do the input button for for interact. So we're going to do input, alright, but we're going to select from a keyboard whatever button we want. So I'm going to do F. Going to check some conditions, which is always good in case we have some cutscenes running or whatever, if something is already in range. So player is player, controllable. Normally it's not going to be controllable in a cutscene. And if that's true, then we can do interact. So this way we don't need to natively change the button interact is tied to. We can just have it be whatever we want it to be, really. So yeah, quite an easy approach. Sweet. Yeah, and let's have a look, and let's see if it actually does what it's supposed to do. Cool. And yeah, now as you can see, the player is looking at it, which is cool. You can customize how that works exactly on the player itself. If you have a look at the whole inverse kinematics, you can change how much he leans, how much he moves the head. So that's completely up to you. So if you don't like how it is done by default, because it certainly doesn't match every character model, you can just change it there. I think it's really cool to have some IK stuff going on. And then yeah, we press F, we've got it. It's here. Obviously it's the wrong image, but it doesn't matter. And yeah, there we have it. Looks awesome. Actually does, looks great. Almost looks a bit like an American football outfit, actually, the top part. But yeah, really cool. So yeah, that's pretty much that. So again, I'm pretty sure you hoped for a slightly easier solution, but as far as I'm aware, due to the skin mesh approach, I just don't see how. Then when it comes to the horse, we can actually copy over copy something over. Yeah, I don't think copying over is actually the smart move. So this is the horse. This is our... There we go. So this is our trigger. So what we can do here is we can add our hotspot. So it's going to be the same. Then you can do the look again. Offset, I think 0.5. He needs to look a bit higher, right? Makes sense. And then tooltip. Show text on focus. Interaction, tooltip. Using the same one. And then the text is simply going to be mount horse. Let's have a quick look. I'm pretty sure the radius has to be quite a bit smaller. Definitely quite a bit smaller. But yeah, we just wanted to make sure it works. And yeah, it works. Awesome. Yeah, I think the radius is a bit too big though, as the trigger isn't that big. But yeah, awesome. Cool. So yeah, that's basically how you can use the whole focus interact thing. There we go. That's enough. Sweet. There we go. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the loot. if you want to have a look at how to do the whole loot chest, I'm sure we'll do it at some point in the series. But just check the inventory examples. It's actually pretty straightforward. I really wanted to show you this for the whole gender approach we have, because we have, you know, multiple choices. So I wanted to show you how you can do that based on the choice. And yeah, thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.